Oh man! Usually Rob. Wait, so so like that's why we're on opposite sides.
Yeah. No, I like mirror because it makes your face look less weird.
So usually, Rob sets up an intro. Let me just see if I can even pull an intro. Rob, you're the worst. I can't believe you didn't at least get us on here.
Are we live now?
Rob set it for 8 o'clock, for 9 o'clock. So
the least flattering angle I've ever had in my life.
It's what?
It's not a flattering angle for me. That's how that was light.
Wait, let me just see what we got here. Let me just see if we're on.
I think we're on.
We're on. Okay, look at that.
We've done it on, man.
All right, so we're on. All right, so usually I have Rob here, and Rob would start us off with an intro. I just hit the go live button. There's no intro tonight, nothing. So Joe and I were just talking, and wow, we got matching shirts and everything, Joe. This is great. So we were both talking, and I'm like, "Why are we talking? Like, let's go on air. What are we doing? Let me just see something."
We were talking about everything you'd want to hear us talk about, just privately. So we figured, why not? We gotta. This is stuff that needs to be recorded.
So okay, can we tell them what's going on behind the scenes?
We have Brick in the chat, and I really appreciated that Brick tweeted the other day, just randomly, that I'm a good guy.
Joe is a good guy. Yeah. I know. So the funny thing is, Joe's last name is Boca. Do you know what your last name means?
Mouth, yeah.
It means mouth.
Yeah, that's right. Don't worry, people have been telling me forever.
That should be my name. So we actually came up like in the group chat today that people were like, we should call Anthony Mouth. I go, you can't call me Mouth. I'm going on air tonight with Mouth.
Yeah, that's literally my name. I mean,
I feel so strange.
Snowman.
Yeah. That's what's funny. It's like, so you're actually a very quiet guy. That's the thing. So you fire off online a lot differently than you do in real life. Like you're actually a very measured guy in real life. You'll fire off online and do controversial things. Okay, let's do
that. Is the thing with the so-called introvert.
Especially online.
In a place where they feel comfortable. Yeah, they're online, so you could just shoot off and say whatever you want, which is what my Twitter has become somewhat known for.
Yeah, like you say things that I'm just like, oh no, what's he doing? Like if you had any idea how often you'll tweet something and I have to screenshot it and send it to Rob and like my crew. Like I sent it to Rob, Jason, like, oh gosh, what's he doing now? Like this is like
my what I like to do on Twitter is just say what I think. I try to read the room somewhat and say what I think other people are thinking a lot of the time, which ends up being the case.
Michael Lofton as co-host, please. All right, wait, let's give a little backstory. We will get into what you were just about to say. So, little backstory. Joe and I met because Joe was on Tim Gordon's show, and Tim had mentioned me on his show when discussing the SSPX. So what it was is Joe was on Tim's show, and Tim had mentioned, he goes, yeah, and I'm friends with, we were friends on Twitter, and Tim says, I know I'm friends with Anthony, and I think Anthony is an occasional SSPX attendee, So when Joe found out I lived on Long Island, he goes, hey, is it St. Michael's that you go to? And I'm like, yeah, of course, that's the only SSPX chapel I know of in Farmingville. So we wound up realizing we both live on Long Island. We both live close. And I met Joe at Mass one day. And we were what were we going to do? We were going to go out after Mass, and then something happened. I couldn't go right away.
Yeah, I think it didn't work out.
Yeah, didn't work out. But Joe and I wind up becoming friends. Now, Joe and I are actual, real life friends. That's what's weird. Like when you have these online things going on, right? You can, when you have disagreements with people, like when I see people on Twitter where somebody will say something and they'll just, people that you thought were friends will all of a sudden just blow up their friendship
quickly
on Twitter because they disagreed with something someone said. Now, me and you disagree about a lot, but we're real life friends. So I try to tell, I have had people DM me and tell me to talk to you. They're like, well, Joe's like your little brother, man. Like, you got to have a talk with him. He can't be saying things like this. And I'm like, I'm not my brother's keeper, first off.
That's not your response. I mean, look, if I say something stupid, And I stand by everything that I've tweeted.
Yeah,
Because I said it. That was me who said it.
And you're you.
That's my business.
It's you.
You're not responsible for any of my posts just because you see me on occasion.
No, and also,
which is what people, I suppose, think.
Okay, so also, like, there's people don't realize that. Okay, so anytime something major happens in the church, me and Joe will talk, like, on the phone, like real friends. Like, we don't tweet. You know what I mean? Like, so he called me the other day, and I think it was after the Salza interview, right, with Fradd.
Right. Yeah.
So this is all right. I have a general rule. My general rule is I don't badmouth other Catholics, and I don't discuss the hierarchy. I asked Joe on tonight. I figured it's a Friday night. Rob's not here with me, so Rob, anything I say tonight does not reflect on Rob, right?
Rob's good. So this, just because I'm here doesn't make me the de facto Rob.
No. And also, Rob and I both decided, like, look, we when we started the channel, there's a lot of toxicity in Catholic, like in the online Catholic world. And we were like, look, our main goal was we wanted to remind people that, like, being Catholic is fun and joyful. Like, it's not just, oh my goodness, what did Francis do? Oh my goodness, what did this one do? Like, I need to know what's going on next. Like, it was like, we wanted to build some kind of a community where people remember that it's fun to be Catholic.
Right.
But it doesn't mean I don't have opinions on all these things, right? So Joe and I, the reason we can disagree and still remain friends is because although I definitely have a more in line with the church view than Joe does with certain things, and then he'll go. But the thing is, both of us recognize that things are so insane right now that I don't judge anyone that comes to a different conclusion than me.
Right. So something Tim Gordon and I have been saying, as a lot of you probably know, that I'm pretty close friends with Tim Gordon, right? And this whole idea of there no epistemic certitude, right?
Yeah.
About what's going on.
Yeah, it's like epistemic humility.
Right. So yeah, that would be the epistemic certitude. Epistemic humility would be the
opposite.
Right. So which is required, basically. So I may have a certain position on the it's actually funny because I'm a bit outspoken regarding whatever my position is, which isn't exactly clear all the time. So some sedevacantists actually get kind of mad at me for not being hard enough on the Pope and things like this. While I thought Matt Fradd was in the chat. Well,
that's Mac Fradd, right?
Yeah. So Matt Fraud.
Wait. Oh, Matt Fraud.
Yeah. Well, I was like, oh god. Well, some other people get mad at me for being too much of a hardliner. So it's look, you're always somebody's liberal, and you're always somebody's reactionary. And I think so some people are going to consider you too right, and some people are going to consider you too left. So I mean, the way I express myself is to have fun on Twitter. Really, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I'll tweet things in a way that's a bit inflammatory, but I know I'm doing it.
So all right, well, what did you? Okay, so this is going to be a rough one because Joe attends Society Chapel now.
More or less, yeah.
That's how I've now. You didn't catch Jeremiah and Tim's show today, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. It was one of the most charitable discussions on the society I've ever heard. I think I fall exactly in line with Flanders. But I never heard Jeremiah be so humble and conciliatory as he was today. So Jeremiah actually admitted that he said, look, I had to realize that I was being harder on people that attend the society than I was on people that are in the Eastern Orthodox Church or people that are even in the Protestant Church, right? So he was actually saying like why am I harder on people that I actually like? We all believe the same faith. We're just talking about like canonical issues and stuff here, right? It's like why am I coming down as such a hardliner on it? And he actually admitted that he had some bias there and things like that. Now, my position on the society is this. I really still want to follow what the church says, right? So the church has said that you can attend a society mass and not feel like you did something wrong as long as you don't have a schismatic attitude. Like as long as you're not going there because it's the true church.
Yeah, as long as you're not spiting, if you don't want to do anything in life out of spite.
Yeah,
it's not a good
yeah
mode of operating.
Yeah, and
you don't want to go to the gym out of spite. You don't want to do anything out of spite. It's just negative energy, really. Not to be all new agey, but it's just you don't want to.
Yeah, you can have you can something. You're right. Like you can have that. Like they. All right, so. Like Lofton started and they started that term, the hermeneutic of suspicion. Like there is something to that, right? Like where everything that comes out, you just looking for the wrong thing there. So that's kind of like having that spiteful attitude. So the way I always saw it was like, okay, the Novus Ordo, the local Novus Ordo for me, denies me communion on the tongue. So I can't even receive communion if I go to the local Novus Ordo, right? So there are two diocesan traditional masses near me. One's at 11:30 and one's at 12:30 every other Sunday. I try to attend those. If I can't make it to one of those, I'll go to the society.
Right.
I don't want to take my kids to a Novus Ordo where they won't even let me receive on the tongue. Like they will deny me communion there. I mean, I got denied communion at my son's confirmation.
Right.
I want my children to believe that the Eucharist is truly
this happened
the body.
I think this happened at Benedict's funeral, no?
Yeah, we saw a video of that, right?
Right.
So it's like, so now I would say that the church has said that if you can't find a mass anywhere else, or you can't attend mass somewhere else, you're allowed to attend the chapel, a chapel, and go to the society. That condition is met for me when I'm in that position, right. Where
no, I mean, not for nothing. Yeah, Caitlin, I used to be here to help. I'm at Marley's Ghost 18 now, but yeah. So they, you could go to the society if you want to. I mean, the Vatican doesn't even give you the because it's in the letter attached to Ecclesia Dei that you don't. They basically unconditionally say you could go to.
Well, they said you could even donate to
their. You could go to mass. You could go to mass.
Said that. So
they don't even say you could go to mass. Like it's not that you could just go to mass there. If there's no diocese, no, it's not even that. I mean, they don't really caveat.
So we're gonna get into some things here that I've never actually said publicly.
Matt Fradd. Who's that, Mac?
No, that's not Mac. He said it's not.
Whoever Matt Fradd is. So, what would you say to somebody who has the option to attend CMRI Mass or a guitar Novus Ordo Mass that allows liturgy?
What's a CMRI?
CMRI is one of the main sedevacantist groups. So what would you say? I would say go to CMRI.
I know you would.
So for those who don't know,
I wouldn't.
I've occasioned an SSPV.
So yeah, Long Island is an SSPV.
That
chapel.
Is Society of St. Pius V.
Okay, now the Society of St. Pius V does their. It's so funny because like even the sedevacantists, like they don't agree on anything, right?
So yeah, I mean, people say SSPV as though like as a banner for sedevacantism, and it's not true at all because the SSPV is.
They're actually epistemically humble. They actually say like we're not sure.
I agree with I full-throatedly agree with their position on the Pope. So their position on the Pope is that since John the 23rd, I suppose, I don't have any real doubt that John the 23rd was the true Pope. But if you want to go Paul VI onward, for instance, I think it's reasonable to doubt that. Which is the Society of St. Pius V's position, is that you could sufficiently doubt the validity of their papacies whilst maintaining being a Catholic. So our friend Matt Fradd said, I don't agree with the CMRI, but I also can't stand liturgical abuse.
Yeah.
I would say all things... Now, I don't speak for avoiding Babylon or anything like that. I speak for myself. If it were me in that situation, I would be going to the CMRI.
Okay, so now this is really what I meant by we're going to do the show that I never said I would do, because I really never thought I would be discussing these topics publicly. Now, Joe and I disagree on this in the respect that I don't think I would do that. But at the same time, I would never judge someone who did. because I think the times that we're in, and I don't judge someone who will only go to a Novus Ordo. I don't judge anyone for coming to the conclusions they've come to at this point in time because things are so chaotic. I just think they are. Like, I think that Joe called me. Joe called me the other day, and it was after the Salza interview, and he said, "Hey, Salza made some good arguments, right? To justify not." To justify this level of obedience that the society does to the Pope, maybe there's no Pope. Like, that was his stance. Now, I don't agree with that, but I can understand how somebody comes to that conclusion, right? So the way you have to unite the clans is to not write some like Patrick Coffin drives me nuts because he's a guy who literally holds that Benedict was the Pope, which makes him a schismatic technically, and he's like, the society's in schism. It's like, dude, shut up.
It's an odd thing to be
really
to be in his position and accuse the society of schism. You know,
it is,
and it's really unfortunate because I wouldn't judge him to be in schism, but he would judge people in my camp, I suppose, to be in schism. So just very briefly on the CMRI, they have a little bit of a dodgy founding. If you look up Bishop Schiff.
Wait, real quick. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm not using a green screen tonight. This is my actual living room.
Those are totally. She's talking about Michael Lofton's fake.
Oh, okay. No.
Because Jay Dyer had accused Michael Lofton of having fake books, and so my modus operandi as a traditional Catholic has been, well, at least publicly, has been. So, all right, it's very odd when somebody like myself has, so Michael Lofton and I ostensibly share the same religion, right? I describe myself as a Catholic, as a Roman Catholic. Michael Lofton he's described as an Eastern Catholic, but in communion with Rome nonetheless. We would both say that.
I'm going to actually voice my opinions on Michael Lofton tonight, and I've never done that, and I'm going to give my opinion on Lofton tonight.
I did a show with Jay Dyer and my friend Christian Mario, and I will say, and since then, I kind of bridged a gap between Jay Dyer and Timothy Gordon, who are both my friends. One is Eastern Orthodox, one's Catholic. I go back with Timothy Gordon a lot longer, but I consider Jay a good guy. Like Jay, I talk to Jay pretty regularly. Like I like Jay a lot. And what I do is I prefer people that
say what they believe.
Not only say what they believe, but understand what's going on. I think Jay has a real understanding.
So he was actually a traditional Catholic at one point.
Yes, he was.
So he does know the Catholic arguments, where when you were on with Jay, I don't know the Eastern arguments. I have a deep
respect. They're very complicated.
I have a deep respect for the East, right? Like, one of my favorite people to watch is Jonathan Peugeot.
Right.
And I love the mysticism of the East. Like, I really do. I love it. Like, there's some things that it's like, okay, I know that we're not united, but some of the things that, like understanding the way reality unfolds to us, Jonathan Peugeot has shown me even like so many cool things that I'm like, that is such an amazing, just like an amazing way, like a concept that the East looks at things. So now, didn't Tim and Jay Dyer have a little thing?
Initially, yeah, I think. Well, I had a thing with Jay Dyer for a while. Like him and I didn't. Like we've had our spats, right? But what Jay does that I think somebody like Michael Lofton does, and look, I was on Kennedy's show where we talk about how Michael Lofton is a problem, but Michael Lofton is also a human being.
Yeah.
And but what I think guys like Lofton and guys like John Salza. Not Salza as much. That would be a bit of a more nuanced position. But what I think Michael Lofton and Matt Fradd and Trent Horn, to an extent, whom I made fun of on Twitter today, not wrongly. I do think it's weird to dress up like a baby in public. But what I think these guys have is what they call normalcy bias. So normalcy bias is The best analogy for it, because it's a good example of normalcy bias, is we both live in New York. So on the subway, when somebody clocks a woman in the face, or like a homeless guy clocks a woman in the face, or something like that,
people won't help.
We all wonder, why didn't anybody do anything about it? And the answer is because normalcy bias, because everybody needs. It's this psychological need for things to be,
and also normalcy bias would be like people thinking like the United States could never have a civil war. It's like, no, we could never have a civil war.
Yeah, that's a good example.
We could never have, like, our country will always be a country. It's like, no, dude, you don't realize the times we're in right now. Like, things are the levels that Rwanda were, right? When the Hutus and the Tutsis went at it. Like, that's the level of vitriol the right and the left have towards one another right now. My thing with Lofton is this. I probably agree with a lot of Lofton's positions. Way more than you do.
Sure.
Lofton went from doing Catholic content, talking about things, even discussing things between the East and West. He went from that to 100% reaction videos. And every single, to the point where he's going back and looking at Taylor and Tim Gordon videos.
He did a video on a 4-year-old episode of TNT.
It's insane.
It's a very odd thing to do, just on a human level.
Now, I don't want to bring this person into this because I don't know. I don't want to even say that. But what that is to me, it's ambulance chasing. It's looking for the biggest clicks. It's like, okay, I'm going to go after Taylor Marshall. I'm going to go after Kennedy Hall. I'm going to go after this one. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I honestly pride myself on what Rob and I do on this channel and trying to be original. Right. Like, really putting thought into, hey, what can we do that nobody else is doing? Right. Like, I don't want to be a carbon copy. So many people, look, everyone wants to be the next Taylor Marshall, including Michael Lofton.
Right.
Michael Lofton is Taylor Marshall just on the other end. And it's like, there's very few guys that can do that right.
So what I was saying before was about, we were talking about, what were we talking about? Going to the society and whether or not that is permissible, right? You can't be identified by what you aren't. So I think people that go to the society, you don't want to go to the society because you're anti-Rome or in a negative way, right? Yeah. You want to go to the society because you believe that the society is doing something good for the church. You don't. In the same way, if you're Michael Lofton and you're acting the way you're acting, which I think is a little nutty, you don't want to be defined by the fact that you're not Taylor Marshall. You know what I mean? Or you're the anti-Taylor Marshall. That's
real quick, Joe. Things are happening behind the scenes. That's all I'm gonna say.
Let's just put it. Vis-a-vis TNT, we're trying.
There are
that.
Okay.
There's
a movement to Listen,
nothing like I haven't bridged the gap yet between Tim and Taylor, but I'm confident that the gap could be.
May see.
This is how about this? I'm going on record right now, as we speak. Taylor has me blocked on Twitter, but whatever. We all know, but Kennedy's friends with Taylor. We all know that I'm very good friends with Tim Gordon. Let me just say this for those of us who have disagreed with Tim Gordon in the past, myself included. We've disagreed publicly. Tim Gordon is one of the best people I've ever met in my entire life.
One of the most genuine guys. Like, I mean,
he's an amazing person.
Just a good dude, man. Like, I know people. Like, he's one of those people that everybody either loves or hates. And first off, I just think I have so much respect for a guy who tries to also do something original, right? Like, dude, he had those Nakane caps people on. Like, he was always looking to try to look outside the box, Tim. And he's also one of the most genuine guys, trying to genuinely figure out what the right path is right now, not just going for clicks. And I mean, I consider Tim a real friend.
And when I say no epistemic certitude, those three words, no epistemic certitude, I got that from him. He's just which one do we want? I don't know if Grey Goose.
Wait, what is this?
So this is
what is this? Is this Rob? I feel like the state of our church is like when you swipe your feet in front of the ant colony following each other, and then you see them scatter in chaos, trying to get back to the truth. All right, so look,
that's a good analogy.
I do want to finish what my opinion on Lofton is real quick. So
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
But I wanted to go on record saying
this is like the time when we were in Steubenville, and I kept badgering Joe, and he goes, "Why don't you just shut up and let me talk?"
Yeah,
like,
because Anthony just browbeats me and just never lets me finish what I'm saying. Because despite my Twitter presence, I'm a bit of an understated guy in person.
Seeing you get mad at me that night, I was shocked.
Yeah, because
I was like, "Holy crap, Joe,
it gets to a point where the guy just doesn't shut up, and like I have to finish what I'm saying." But
I was drinking that night, by the way.
Joe Diodati, this is so Anthony is drinking rum chata.
And Fireball.
And Fireball. I'm going to make a recommendation. I went to the liquor store on my way here because I'm going to be hanging with Anthony all night. This is Rock and Rye bourbon, and it actually it's 84 proof, so there's a good amount of alcohol in it. It tastes like a pre-mixed old fashioned, and it's done really well. It's really good. I'd recommend that. But this is me. What I wanted to say about TNT. This is me publicly going on record as a friend of Tim Gordon and as a friend of Timothy Kennedy Hall, who's good friends with Taylor Marshall. I don't know Taylor myself personally, but Tim is my best friend.
Also, I'm only friends with Tim and Kennedy because of Joe.
Yeah, so for some reason, people seem to want my opinion on stuff.
But not just that. Joe introduced me to both of them to the degree where I consider them both now friends. Like So a lot of the friendships I have on the channel are because Joe introduced me to people. Like Joe is,
Hallie,
what you think of his opinion.
Joe's
a good friend.
I've watched a lot, Hallie. I actually watch a lot of Michael Lofton's content. I watched the full episode of Pints with Aquinas with John Salza. I've watched a lot of Lofton solo content or stuff he's done recently with Kevin Simmons, or just stuff he's done generally. My position is just that I look.
Finish the TNT story.
Hold on. This is really important.
All right.
Here's the thing. So it's funny because people have gotten a little upset with me because I've come closer to sedevacantism. Here's how it goes though, is that I'm not completely here yet, but I'm kind of at the point where I see it as a binary of the Pope is either correct and the Novus Ordo is fine and Vatican II is fine and you should submit to it and you should just go to the Novus Ordo and you should just accept Vatican II without a problem. Because I'm starting to feel like that's what Vatican I might have prescribed, is that you need to take all of this on the chin and just go along with it. Because the Pope gave it to you, how could it be bad, right? How could the Pope poison the pie? Or perhaps if these things are bad, which I believe they are, I believe to the letter that in some ways Vatican II had some issues, and that the Novus Ordo Missae, the Mass itself, is bad. That the Pope can't give you a bad Mass and a bad council. That it's impossible.
Vatican I actually taught that and said to say that the Pope can promulgate something that is harmful to the faith is anathema. Something along those lines. Paraphrasing. So, that is actually what Vatican I said.
It's funny because I seem like a guy who's hard on a guy like Lofton and a guy like Salza, but I'm almost granting their arguments and saying, well, okay, fine. If you're right, then sedevacantism's true.
Okay, so that was the conversation Joe and I had, right? So Joe calls me the other day, and then Joe shoots off the tweet. I think, guys, they might not be a Pope. Like that's the tweet he sends out.
Because while I'm saying there might be no Pope, there's people saying while I'm saying that Francis might be an anti-Pope and Paul VI might have been an anti-Pope, there's people saying that Vatican I needs to be clarified.
Okay, so
here's the thing. Saying that I don't have the quote with me because my phone's over there. But saying Vatican I or even Vatican II needs to be clarified falls under a condemned proposition in Auctorum Fidei by Pope Pius VI. You can't say that the church was unclear on something. And if the church was unclear on something, you toss it. So when I see articles about dubia concerning Vatican I or being a pseudo Gallican by like a guy like Kwasniewski, who I think is wrong on it. Like, I mean, I know Kwasniewski is championed by a lot of traditionalists, but I think he's wrong on like more than he's right on.
Yeah.
I think he's wrong on I think he means well, and I think he's intelligent. But I think this whole thesis of papal minimalism that people want to champion is just
they're looking to the east.
No,
right? They're looking at the eastern position now, and I don't know if you can either. But
it's not correct.
But all right,
Vatican I was an ultramontane council.
Yeah, it definitely was.
And if you're gonna go, Margot, I don't dislike Peter Kwasniewski. I just think he's incorrect.
You think Kwasniewski's incorrect about what?
Papal minimalism. I don't think I'm not a papal positivist where everything the Pope says, even in an airplane interview, is binding. But it seems to me that there are certain statements in Vatican I that say that the Pope has authority to promulgate liturgy and that the Pope has authority to call a council. And he did those things.
Mm-hmm.
But if the council and the liturgy are objectively bad, which I believe they are, that would mean the Pope isn't the Pope. Okay, that the Pope is a Pope, and we have to go along with this thing, though I know it's bad.
Now, when you bring that in, now you bring up the validity of the sacraments, right? So that was the conversation we had the other day, and it was like, okay, so now if the Pope's not the Pope, what about the validity of the sacrament? Now, I have to say right off the bat, I view this situation completely differently than Joe. I view the situation completely differently than I think anybody that is even written on the subject. I'm not even sure I agree with Peter Kwasniewski. My position is to see everything typologically. Now, if you look at the hierarchy at the time of Christ's first coming, what you have is the people of Israel with the Sanhedrin and the high priest, and those all prefigure the modern day papacy and the curia.
Well, the seed of David would prefigure the modern day papacy. Yeah.
So now what I look at it is more like when Christ comes that first time, what do you have? You have the Sanhedrin and the high priest colluding with Rome to crucify the Son of God.
You know what else you have, right?
A vacancy in the seat of David. I know that's the second contest position.
Well, and I think Peter Diamond. I mean that is a heck of an argument. I think.
All right, now if you're going to look at it typologically, right? Okay, that is an argument. Now
it is. It's not conclusive.
What I would say is that it's about unfaithfulness. Okay, and when you have these periods in the Old Testament where the people of Israel stray from God and then God sends a prophet to call them back. Right. And I just think we're in a period where the hierarchy is being unfaithful and you're dealing with Judas priest situations.
You don't need to think that.
No, that's what that's what we're dealing with. Yeah. Now, I think that to me, and I want to say this to everybody watching, it doesn't matter if Francis it doesn't matter what Francis does. It doesn't matter if he's valid. None of that matters when it comes to your personal salvation. Like and I don't like saying personal salvation like Protestant would, but what I'll say is if the sacraments are valid.
Well, you first have to save your soul.
So the point is personal holiness and the community you grow with. That is what's going to, if you're married, the kind of husband you are, the kind of father you are, that is what matters to your salvation. Like you are going to be judged on what kind of father you are, what kind of husband you are, what kind of man you are, what kind of wife you are, what kind of mother you are. That is what is going to depend, your salvation will depend on. And I think a lot of us as the laity get too caught up in what did Francis do? What did Francis say? Is Francis the Pope? Is that so? I think that a lot of us get too caught up in that. And I think that a lot of us are just being called to a level of personal holiness that a lot of us ignore because it's very fun to get, like, I don't care. It's exciting to see Cardinal Pell died and he wrote this letter before he died and it's juicy gossip. And it's like, you guys have no idea.
It's like the gossip column.
Well, you have to understand how
it
difficult it is as a Catholic YouTuber to not do videos on those things.
Yes.
Like, it is really difficult. Do you have any idea how bad I wanted to call Rob and be like, Rob, come on, Cardinal Pell just died. He just wrote these 2 letters. Like, let's do a show on this. And it's like, hey, let's have some integrity. Like, don't just go for the views and worry about your channel blowing up. Like, just be genuine. Be who you are, right? Like, don't ever try to front like you're somebody else. Like, I am who I am. So Joe and I disagree on these things. Now, all right, I have to get back to Lofton real quick. So the Lofton thing, I was saying before that he does all these reaction videos. I never want to do that. And I understand the hypocrisy in me talking about Lofton in this video. Like, please understand, I'm trying to be as charitable as I can in this scenario because...
Charitable.
the thing is, I watched Lofton talk about Francis in a way where he was defending Francis, and what he did was he brought up the first encyclical that Francis wrote on evangelization, because he was talking about how people were saying Francis said the great. Yeah, go ahead. So Francis actually, people were debating whether Francis said proselytism and evangelization are actually sinful. And what happened was Lofton goes to Francis's first encyclical. And in that first encyclical, you guys have to remember, Benedict wrote that first encyclical. Francis popped in with a couple of things at the end. And Lofton was quoting Benedict in how to evangelize. And he was using that and saying, look at how amazing Francis says we should evangelize. And it just seems so disingenuous to me. And even when I watch any of Lofton's videos, he tries to act like he's being charitable when it seems like he's just looking to see how he can get more clicks. And he's doing these several videos. And I like Michael Lofton before he did this whole thing. Like, I actually, there were a couple of times where he had actually talked me off of going too far on something, and I really respected him. And it's really heartbreaking to me that all his videos now are just, hey, what did Tim Gordon say? Hey, what did Taylor Marshall say? Hey, what did this one say? Like, dude, like, you have a channel, like, and you have a responsibility. It's like, who do you want to be on your channel? Like, I'm telling you, look, you guys don't realize it is a very hard thing to decide what you want to do and to have integrity. And you guys think it's like, a lot of people are like, why are you reviewing The Chosen? It's like, because I don't want to be the ambulance chaser. God's honest truth. I don't want to be an ambulance chaser. I don't want to be, hey, what's the quickest story coming in? How can we get views? And it really is a difficult thing because our channel is growing extremely slowly. I got knocking on the door. I wonder who the hell's here. Go ahead, Joe. You take it over.
We got nobody's eating dinner.
Oh, the food
here.
Yeah. The food, I forgot.
So this is Chinese food for sure. What I didn't do, what I didn't finish, which I suppose I should finish now because the mic is mine. Is that this is my Gorbachev. Hi, Rob. This is my Gorbachev tear down the wall moment, right? I'm friends with Timothy Gordon. He's actually one of my best friends, right? He's one of
I'm a little insulted by
friends
that, but it's okay.
And I'm good friend. I'm Kennedy Hall's basically de facto co-host, right, on the Kennedy Report, and he's friends with Taylor. So what I'm calling for right now is the official reunion of the two parties which had splintered, and that is Timothy Gordon and Taylor Marshall. I do hope, and I've seen, I don't want to speak of some positive development in that direction, and I do hope that those two
now, that doesn't mean public
can reconcile. No, it doesn't have to be public, but I am calling for a reconciliation.
Behind the scenes, there are things happening where, look, a big part of the reason TNT had a falling out
uniting the clans
were because of Dave Gordon. And honestly, look, I want to be careful because I do really like Tim. And the thing is, we all have family things, right? Like, every one of us have family things. I mean, we all have that brother or that cousin or that somebody that really makes things difficult. And it's sad that, I mean, I wish I could share some of the things Tim and I have talked about, because Tim's in a very, very hard position right now with this brother. because Dave makes everything so public. It's like, why are you doing this publicly? Like, it's your brother, man. Like, what are you doing? And I really have a great respect for Tim that he never really does talk about it publicly. The other thing, when you talk about Taylor also, people should really have a respect for Taylor that he never addresses any other Catholics publicly in a negative way.
Literally, yeah, never.
Never.
I'll give him that.
There is some, like, that's something. So that has really been my position as well. And I learned that from Tim Flanders and Taylor, right? It's like somebody's coming at you and saying something. It takes a lot of self-discipline to not go back at that person public because you want to defend yourself. We've all seen what happened we've all seen what happened with Church Militant and Mike, right? And that situation, it's like, I like Mike. I'm friends with Mike, and seeing some of the things that they've done publicly, I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man?
You know for sure somebody. Look, I know I'm as certain as anything that somebody like Michael Lofton is jealous of Taylor Marshall.
Oh, for sure. Jealous of Taylor, jealous of Kennedy.
It
just comes off that way. It's like,
Michael Lofton, even Matt Fradd is jealous of Taylor.
No, okay.
I mean, Taylor Marshall has more subscribers. He has more subscribers than Matt. Well, everybody wants you to think Matt Fradd is the dawn of Catholic.
But
Marshall's doing better than he is.
I used to love.
I'm still blocked by Taylor on Twitter.
I used to love about Matt Fradd that he had this humility about the scenario going on right now.
He's talking about Hammer of Heretics.
I love that about Matt. It's why we went to Steubenville. It was because Matt was talking like, I understand, guys. I mean, we're in a crazy time right now. And then after Matt had Lofton on, Matt kind of started going a little hard on people that have a different position than him. And it's like, I don't get that. Like, I just don't get it. It's like, I get that you're coming to a different conclusion, but I don't get the judging someone who came to a different conclusion. We are in insane times right now. This is all Joe typing, so whatever comments, I don't even know what he's typing right now. That's not me typing. It's like the scenario that we're in right now is so confusing for a lot of people. I know that I take a more conservative stay in the church view, but I don't ever think I could. Even a sediment contest at this point, it's like, I get why you came to that conclusion. I don't agree with it.
Don't tell.
But I
so
understand
here's the thing.
it.
Matt Fradd wants to say they're all schismatic and they're all this and all that. And I'm like, look, I don't think Matt Fradd is schismatic.
No, definitely not.
So just stop. You know what I mean? Like, stop with the Hammer of Heretics nonsense. Like, just quit it. Like, I'm Catholic, you're Catholic, he's Catholic, she's Catholic. See, this is silly. The most genuine man I've ever met. Matt Fradd is a guy.
I love Matt Fradd. I don't like what he's done the last.
I'm very unimpressed by him.
I don't like what he's done the last.
Matt Fradd to me, and this is not avoiding Babylon's opinion. This is my opinion. If you want to give anybody a hard time, it's mine. Matt Fradd is the kind of guy who says something, and then the minute the heat starts to turn up, he backs right off. And you saw it with the female comedians thing because, look, there aren't funny female comedians. That's just what it is. Like, they're not.
If you're talking about actual comedians,
they're not funny.
No, they're usually vulgar.
So, I know some girls that are very funny on Twitter, but they're not.
I said it actually last night on our trivia show. The trope that no women are funny is stupid. Like, some of the women I know they're funny, but what the thing is with female comedians, they go for the lowest hanging fruit and they always go for raunchiness and disgustingness, and it's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's not funny. And Matt should have stuck to his guns on that. And the reason he backed off was because he's friends with Jennifer Fulwiler, and it's like, she's the exception that proves the rule. Like, he should have just laid it down and said that. Like Jennifer, but no, you're a unicorn. You're unique.
He will literally he'll bend for any. If they literally the second the heat starts to turn up with Matt Fradd, he just he folds, and I'm just like, dude, stop. He's a folder. He's the kind of guy that he's like.
See, right now Rob would be flashing a banner on the bottom that says the views that Joe Boca expresses are not the opinions.
I'm going on record as at Marley's Ghost 18 on Twitter.
Yeah, that's fine. And
that Matt Fradd is an accordion.
And the thing is, I think you're allowed to have any opinion you want, right? Like, well, I hope if anything that this conversation brings out is that you can have you could be friends with a sedevacantist and still understand that. And I'm not saying Joe's actually a sede, but you can understand.
I'm more or less a sedevacantist.
Like, what is a person? What is a person of goodwill, right? Like, Joe and I believe the same faith. Like, if you get into what Joe and I believe the same faith.
Hold on. Let me answer Joe Boturf here because.
Boturf.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is Matt Fradd folding, or is he trying to be charitable?
So how is calling sedevacantists heretics charitable? Because it's not true. Like that's a.
What if he's misinformed? What if after talking to Lofton, he was convinced of his argument and he was like, maybe he had a conviction of conscience and he said, wait, maybe I really.
He had Peter Diamond explain on his show for hours why sedevacantism is at least not only coherent but consistent with the theology of St. Robert Bellarmine and the ecclesiology of St. Robert Bellarmine. That there's no way you could believe sedevacantism is heresy. It's just bad for Pints of Aquinas Inc. That's what it is.
Okay,
that's not my problem.
That's what that is.
So I'm look. If you hand me a copy, granted that I have sufficient doubt and I have reason to doubt that so and so are popes. If you hand me a copy of Denzinger with all of the Catholic dogmas laid out in John Ott, right? Clearly, I would sign off on 100% of those dogmas.
And so would I.
So to call me a schismatic, or to call my friends on.
Okay,
and look, I think of when I think of sedevacantism, I'm not thinking about these fellas like who are basically sedevacantism or die, where other people, where non-sedes can't be Catholic. I'm not of that position. I think non-sedevacantists and sedevacantists can be Catholic. I think this is reconcilable.
Okay, so
but
wait,
to call them schismatic is insanity, and it's normalcy bias. And I'll stop here.
So today Jeremiah asked about sharing an altar, right? So we're all claiming to be Catholic, okay? A lot of people watch our show that only attend the Novus Ordo. Some of them out of necessity. Some of them because they actually love their Novus Ordo parish, okay? Do you share an altar with those people? Because I've seen you say, go to Mass on Sunday, unless it's a Novus Ordo, don't go. Now, I know you are Joe the Mouth. That's the thing, like Joe Boca, right? So sometimes I think you're trying to ruffle feathers. And sometimes I wonder, are you in communion with somebody who goes to the Novus Ordo but still believes the Catholic faith?
I don't know. I think if you okay, I'll put it this way. Enthusiasm and I'm not really talking about enthusiasm in that sense, because people love to talk about enthusiasm. No, probably not. Says, probably not, Marco.
Would sedes attend an adoration chapel where the host was consecrated at a Novus Ordo?
No, probably not.
That's and crazy to me, Joe.
It's not crazy.
Would you?
Would I?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
No, it does matter to me. I really want to know that, right?
But so I'm not. So I would say somebody who enthusiastically attends the Novus Ordo as the Novus Ordo.
No, I'm asking you. Because it's one thing to say the Novus Ordo has so many liturgical abuses. I just, out of conscience, I can't. I mean,
attend, one of my.
Do you think the Novus Ordo Eucharist is validly consecrated, where you could go and kneel before the Blessed Sacrament at adoration? And you, if you don't want to answer that, I don't blame you. I understand. That's a rough question.
At this point, I suppose I probably
not
would.
that you. Okay, so I understand you probably wouldn't. Out of
Joe, give me 1 sec. Joe, if you could, maybe I didn't understand what you meant. If you could explain yourself in the chat, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Because I maybe I didn't get what you're getting at. So if you could clarify it, I'll try to answer what you meant.
Got a pretty big audience.
I'm sorry about that. Here's the thing: if you were to, I saw Hallie post that I go to the Novus Ordo, right? I understand that, but if you were to go to the Novus Ordo enthusiastically as the Novus Ordo, right, like all gung ho for the Novus Ordo,
which would be Hallie would be that,
like hip hip hooray for the Novus Ordo. I'll be honest, I hate to say it, but I don't think that's a Catholic attitude.
What if they really do assent to every single Catholic dogma?
Because look at a guy like Dave Gordon saying that you have to get rid of the traditional.
Oh, dude, I can't understand that attitude.
I can't
I can't understand.
I can't get on board with that because
I have a hard time.
What I see manifesting, what I see as a result of this semi-traditional position results in a disavowing yourself of tradition, which is what they're doing now.
That's crazy.
That's what they did. They put it in writing.
And where?
In Dave Gordon's article.
Oh, in Dave Gordon. Okay.
And Michael Lofton interviewed him to kind of support this. And
no, the funny thing is, where did Dave
write that? And where Peter is.
Where Peter is,
I'm
right?
not, so let's put it this way. It's hard. I'm not here to say individually people aren't Catholic. I regard people, I treat people as Catholic until they prove otherwise. So it's all good.
Put it up. Put the comment up.
Okay, hold on. Let me read Joe's chat because I think I had to. You and I agree Boca and Matt Fradd is wrong for the recent measure towards the SSPX and Bennett. Yeah, I think we're both on the same page there, right? That's good.
I wish Matt hadn't said that. I will say that.
I think that,
but I don't agree with his motive
because
I disagree on his motive.
You see the meme of cope, right? Because that's what it is. It's cope.
I don't think so.
Like it's Matt.
I'm gonna defend Matt a little bit
like
here, right?
Taking the old copium.
So I get why you see that. What I honestly think happened there is Matt sat down with Lofton, and Lofton has some good arguments.
I don't think Lofton's arguments are very good.
I know you don't, but you're
Salz's
way more
arguments,
entrenched.
Salz's arguments are better than Lofton's.
Right, but you are entrenched in this movement. Right, and this comes down to the Mass of the Ages thing too, right? When they were saying
the rebranding question.
Question.
I will say this: I had an opportunity to go on. I was busy. I couldn't go on Gordon's show. I'm sorry, Mac. This is kind of the Joe show because I'm not usually on. But I had an opportunity to go on Gordon's show. I was very busy with a move, and I was not able to record the Mass of the Ages show. But the rebranding question is an interesting one, I guess.
So here was my position on it. And the reason I have this position is because I listen to you. And I also listen to people on the opposite side. I think that they had great intentions. And I don't think they meant this is our movement to rebrand. And I think people interpreted it that way. And I think that was pretty crappy that people didn't give the benefit of the doubt and pull them aside in private and say, hey, dude, maybe you could word this differently. Because I don't think they ever had the pomposity to say, this is our movement, we're going to rebrand it. Right. But this gets down to everything we're talking about. Like even with the Matt Fradd thing, I think Fradd had Lofton on. Fradd is not entrenched in the arguments we are. And he just went, you know what? Michael Lofton's right. Francis is the Pope. Forgetting all of the things that Francis has done over the past decade. It's not just Pachamama because Lofton can write off Pachamama. It is every opportunity this Pope gets.
Right.
He tries to discourage us and destroy any bit of hope we have. Like he just does. It is the hardest papacy any generation has ever had to deal with. I'm sorry. I really don't like talking about the hierarchy. I don't. But this is the most, I left the faith for years because of Francis. This is not an easy thing for a lot of Catholics. And I've seen people leave the church. Steve Skojak and many others have left the church because this is such a difficult papacy. Right. Francis isn't just, we're misinterpreting him. He's intentionally confusing people. He's intentionally saying things. And the thing is, when Tim Gordon says, hey, you see the shows that are Pope-splaining, it's like, yeah, these people are Pope-splaining. Lofton is Pope-splaining. I get it that he's the Pope and we have to have submission, but it's like, do you have to take every single opportunity you have to try and destroy the people who actually believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God who died for our sins and that you need to repent of those sins before you can be forgiven? It is such a crazy time that I cannot I have to not judge the people that come to different conclusions than me. I just can't. I just don't have in my conscience. I'm just like, I understand.
Well, strictly speaking, judgment means discerning whether or not the person's going to hell or heaven, which you can't do. So Don said that I'm talking over you.
No, not at
No,
all.
Don is just mad because I'm super against the vaccine and he's very soft on, and he's
Knock it off.
and he's been hedging on that question ever since he's been on Twitter. But that sounds like his problem to me.
Wait.
Hold on, I want to address Christine. I want to go. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking over you because y'all don't see what happens when the cameras aren't rolling.
No, it's not that. I was only going to say. It's usually me doing what Joe's doing. Let Joe do his thing.
Right. Christine is saying, and I'm getting a lot of questions here because I'm the one taking
Joe, this is your show.
The tough position on scientific autism. So I want to address Christine's question. Fred and Bobby Diamond, I didn't know those were their real names, are not the guys I would look to as models of what scientific autism truly is. They're heretics by following the errors of Father Leonard Feeney for not being scientific autism. So I'm going to have to address this point by point. So all right, first off, I am not personally a Diamondite. So I don't follow the views of Most Holy Family Monastery. And they might make a video addressing why I'm some kind of...
or this video.
Right.
They may address this video.
They might address this video saying that Joe and Anthony are...
We hope so. We need the attention, guys.
I don't mind.
Address our video.
Because Vatican Catholic gets a lot of views. So so Christine, if you're still watching, which I hope you are, because you're a smart, discerning lady. I'm not a Diamondite. I'm not a Feeneyite myself. I just think Peter Diamond, especially, I don't know much about Michael Diamond, happens to make good arguments for the position that the seat is vacant. Not so. I don't
in his debate on Fradd's channel. It's
a strong argument.
Everybody was like, "Dude, Diamond killed that argument." Okay,
yeah,
I don't agree with it, but Diamond did do good in that.
Castman got whooped. So we all know that. But so I'm not ascribing to the position of Peter Diamond. I just happen to think he makes a good case for sedevacantism writ large. If I were to and as far as Feeneyism goes, I don't think Feeneyites are heretics. That's somewhat of a controversial position, but I don't think Feeneyites are heretics. But I think Peter Diamond makes a good case for sedevacantism. And but I don't subscribe to everything he says, including Feeneyism. There's another comment that if you don't mind.
Joe's listen, guys. Any comments go up? Joe's running the comments tonight. I'm over here hanging.
Yeah, I mean, I have the screen.
I will say that Diamond won that argument,
of course,
but I don't agree with Diamond's positions because I think that debate was way too broad. Like it was just a way too broad of a debate, and I don't think Jeff Castman was prepared to handle. Like that was a crazy wide debate to have, and I think that Jeff did phenomenal in his defense of the SSPX in the previous debate he did. Like Jeff did an amazing job in his defense of the SSPX. I just think there are too many of these like little things that it's so easy to just go, oh, what about this happen? What about this happen? And I think Diamond has this is what Diamond does. He's got lists of all the heresies of Pope Benedict XVI, the heresies of Pope John Paul II. It was just too easy for him to throw these things out without making positive arguments. He was just throwing all the things that he had to answer to. So what is that?
Michael Hodges asked one of the important. Do you think Francis is Pope?
I do.
Probably not. I would imagine he's not.
And I don't judge you for coming to that conclusion.
So the reason I say that is because if Pope Francis is the Pope, he seems to me to have the legal right to perform something like Traditionis Custodes, right?
So maybe he does.
Then what?
Then we wait for the next Pope to undo it.
Which is a rough...
Yeah, look, we have a monarchy,
that's
Joe.
Unfortunate.
Joe, we have a monarchy.
No, I agree.
We believe in the monarchy, but
if we believe,
like there are bad kings.
He's either not the king. He's either not the king,
or he's a bad king,
or he's a bad king. So he's either not a king,
or we're in something that we've never experienced before,
which might be the great apostasy.
And okay, so look, people like I see like Hilarity Jane, right? Jane White, is that her name? So like whenever somebody mentions the great apostasy, they're like, oh, you're one of those people. It's like, dude, how can you not think that's a possibility right now? How can you honestly think the possibility that we're in the great apostasy is not a possibility right now.
Well,
you're
like, what are
talking
you gonna
about
say?
the hierarchy falling away from the
You're
faith.
gonna
The
say-
synod on synodality.
You're going to say it doesn't look like a great apostasy?
The synod on synodality is the most insane thing. I mean, Cardinal Pell went to his grave decrying this thing, right? And we are in times that for you to not think that the possibility that we are in the great apostasy, for you to not think that we are coming to the end of something, and that there is a possibility that we will see the glorious return of Christ the King. Like, I just don't see how you could not consider that as a possibility. I know every generation thinks they're going to be the last. Every generation, I think that a lot of that has to do with nobody is comfortable with the world going on fine without them when they're gone, right? Like, so secretly, I think every generation wants to kind of be the last. Like, deep down,
Well,
it's like, I'm not comfortable with the world going on for another 1,000 years without me. So
let's put it this way. Every generation actually assumes that it's the last generation, because you'll see saints talk about how that a lot of saints believe that they were in the end times, and we're talking the early church, because Christ talks about in the gospel about how he'll come again and return, to judge.
Eventually, one generation is going to be right.
Somebody's going to be.
Somebody's going.
End time is happening at some point. I don't know that it's. Look, I mean, the great. Look, we've never experienced anything like we've experienced now.
But even Michael, right?
Maybe a great apostasy. Yeah, I pulled up.
Michael, we're not end times fundies. You cannot know the time or the day or the hour. We're just saying the possibility.
He said it's a joke.
Okay.
Which
like
is
you
fair.
have to
I just don't know. It's just,
none of us do.
We're in and out. Okay, so Christine's been making useful comments.
Go ahead, read it.
Hallie wanted to know if I think she's Catholic. She should have about as much doubt that I'm Catholic as I have as she does. So
Here's what I think about Haley.
Can I
tell you what I think about Haley?
I presume that she's Catholic. She calls herself Catholic, so I'll take her word for it.
I think Haley just wants to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. And look, dude, so many people that I think traditionalists go overboard with the not getting the Novus Ordo. Like, dude, there are a lot of people who look at it like, okay, well, Padre Pio went through some crazy things and he was obedient. Like, that is a legitimate position. It is. Like, I struggle with that, man. It's like, okay, so if I miss my traditional mass, should I go to a Novus Ordo or should I go to the chapel? I struggle with that, Joe, because in the chapel, there's a schismatic attitude.
No, I go to that. I go to that particular chapel. So what's always funny is that, okay, people will talk about. It's actually kind of ironic because people will talk about how there's a schismatic attitude at the SSPX chapel.
But there is. You're there.
Hold on, so you didn't let me finish. So I'll be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And then 1 minute later, I'll be talking about the SS. Then 1 minute later, I'll be talking about how the Pope might not be the Pope. So, like, yeah, maybe there is, but I don't. Here's what I'll say. My opinion. It's funny because, like, Hallie, like, I'll take Hallie as an example because she's probably the most. I don't want to mischaracterize her, but she's probably the most Novus Ordo most of the
most Novus Ordo person I know.
Right, and she's extremely Novus Ordo, and I'm extremely not Novus Ordo. Right.
Yeah.
But
you'll say don't go to mass if it's a Novus
I will
Ordo,
say don't.
Right?
No, I don't think you should.
And she would say don't go to mass if it's a chapel.
I think you shouldn't go.
You guys are the opposite.
I think you straight up shouldn't go to the Novus Ordo.
I understand,
but
I would.
But like, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's no big deal. So it's funny. Like, I seem to come off as the super far right conservative traditional.
I don't think so.
Traditional. Well, I mean, some of your commenters are extremely, like very up in arms. But hold on, let me finish, because it's like some people will be like, Joe's the super right wing guy, and I'm just like, no, I'm actually the opposite. I'm the one saying that, like, literally everybody's Catholic. Because I have to address. Oh yeah, this is a good question.
I have to address this. Let me explain something to everybody. When you get to your final judgment, you will not be asked what mass you attended. You will not be asked what form of the mass you attended. You will be asked, how did you love God and love your neighbor? Now, the thing is, the traditional mass should give you the grace. Like, we believe that the traditional mass is going to lead you to live that life better.
God's going to want to know how you glorified God.
Absolutely.
And
that's
like,
not the
it's
point.
not irrelevant.
Look, if you're going to liturgical dance, skateboard mass, things like that, Yes, but if you are going to a reverend Novus Ordo or the best Novus Ordo you can attend because that's your only option, don't you dare tell me that people that attend the Novus Ordo can't go to heaven. Like, I can't ever
I mean, I think
accept that premise.
I have one of my best friends is a Calvinist, and like I think he could go to heaven. You know,
Yeah,
he's not going to go to heaven insofar as he's not going to.
He won't go to heaven because he's a Calvinist.
No, he's going to go to heaven
of the fact that
he's going to go to heaven insofar as he's Catholic, but I believe he could make it.
Yeah,
he's one of my best friends.
Yeah, and that is such
like I love the guy to death. You know, like
that is a very nuanced position for a traditionalist to have, right? Because you hear the extra ecclesiam universalis hammered down. I honestly think that anybody following their conscience, a well-formed conscience to the best of their ability, will be judged. You'll be judged based on the amount of grace you responded to by God. That's what I really believe. Whatever grace God gives you, you're going to be judged based on how you responded to the grace that was given to you by God. And that is a very nuanced position for a traditionalist to take, right? Because we do believe there is no salvation outside the church, and I assent to that doctrine 100%.
Right.
But the thing is, to me, there's no salvation outside the church because you cannot get the fullness of the faith outside of the church. But if you are outside of the church and you are living the faith to the best of your ability, you will get there not because you were something else, in spite of the fact that you were something else. This is look, I never thought I'd say some of these things that I'm saying on air. I'm pushing back on Joe a little, but I hope all of you understand that the point of this is Joe and I differ drastically. I love him like a brother, right? Like, so like some of the infighting that we're having as trads is really, really rough. Like I'm watching.
It's very sad.
It's really sad.
I like and I mean, not that it's important, but like like as far as my personal life goes, most of my good friends, most of my the people I hang out with are either not religious or Eastern Orthodox or Calvinist. Yeah. And I love, and
you still love them,
and I love dearly. And not only do I love them dearly, but I respect their positions. I think they take a really courageous and logical position in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What was ironic was when James White said, he goes,
I don't know if anybody thinks that Joe's and we're judged. I love Joe and.
Wait, who said that? Put that up.
How I don't want her to think that, like, I'm not being.
I care because Joe is a person and a brother. We are judged on our charity. I love Joe, and that he thinks because I love the Novus Ordo. Wait a minute, Haley. Okay. The thing is, okay, so this is a common thing I see from people that do attend the Novus Ordo, and it really upsets me when I see it because. What it is people will actually think that when we critique the Novus Ordo, we're critiquing the people that attend the Novus Ordo. And that's insane. It is not anybody's fault that the church promulgated this liturgy. You're going and trying to be the best Catholic you can, right? And the liturgy is what the liturgy is. What we're critiquing is the liturgy itself and saying the bishops and the Pope should never have even promulgated this new missal. So a lot of times Enoch does his show and he interviews people. He says, get to know. And at the end of the show, he says, if you were Pope, what would you do?
Right.
And what I would do, I would get rid of the Novus Ordo Missae immediately. I would allow for the 1962 or previous, 1955 or 1962, to be said in English for a period so that the priests could learn the rubrics in English, just read the English translation for a 2-year period. Then once they learned the actual movements of the liturgy and the rubrics, once they understood that, then they have to go to Latin and they have to really say this in Latin. And the idea behind Latin is not that Latin is this amazing holy language and that's the only language that should matter. It's that if you go to France, if you go to Italy, if you go to Germany, if you go to China, if you go anywhere, there's a universal language.
Although if you go to France, they do read the gospel in the vernacular.
Even at a chapel
SSPX too, I think. Yeah.
Well, when I go to St. Michael's, they read it in the vernacular after they read it in Latin.
They read it at the mass, but that's the French custom.
Yeah,
which is fine.
But the idea is
People,
there's a universal language that the church has because we are separate from the world, and we have a dead language that the whole world, nobody in the world uses, right? So if you're in China or if you're in El Salvador, you go to mass, you understand the language of the mass because as Catholics, we're different from the world, and we have this unique language. And that's the beauty of it. It shows the universality of the church. It's not about Latin is better, and if you say it in the vernacular, it's not holy. No, you guys are.
It's actually not about Latin at all.
It's not.
As a matter of fact, like it's a bit about Latin because Latin is
a holy language. It's a sacred language.
Latin is a sacred language because it was one of the 3 languages on the
cross,
right?
Which came up last night on last night's show.
But if it was about Latin itself and only Latin, it would be a self refuting proposition. So if you have, for instance,
Enoch, I forget if I actually answered that way when I was on your show.
You have
and speaking of plugs, like Enoch and I were both mentioned in Kennedy Hall's video, Catholic Inc. And yeah. I think both of us felt like it was really an honor to be mentioned with some of the names that Kennedy threw out there. I mean, Kennedy threw some big names out there, and then at the end he goes, "Oh, right, Anthony and Rob are okay, and so are Enoch and Elijah." And I think that he was saying it tongue in cheek, but I would think Enoch as well as I, like, we will never not show respect to the guys who came before us and laid the groundwork for what we're doing. Like, I really do. I do show respect to the guys who pay. Like, without Taylor Marshall, there is no Michael Lofton. I don't care what Michael Lofton thinks. Without Taylor Marshall, there is none of us. There's no Kennedy Hall without Taylor Marshall. Like, look, he really did break apart and show that you don't need the backing. Like, we could get on the internet and just talk, guys, and just speak from our heart. And people are feeling the same way we are, and they're going to watch.
Right.
And they're going to listen. This is one of the biggest live shows we've had in a while. I mean, we've had bigger, but this is one of the biggest live shows we've had in a while. I mean, I've seen this thing go from between 50 and 60 for the past, half an hour. And I think people
is that unusual?
We usually get around 35, but the thing is, I think a lot of people are identifying with both of our positions, Joe. Right? Like, I think, I don't think you're crazy. I don't think I'm crazy.
I'm taking probably a bit more blowback than you are.
But I think that you're like that. Like, you're.
Yeah, I lean into that. That's sort of my MO.
You are principle above everything.
Yes.
And I care more about. I care a lot about relationships, right? Like, I think that Haley is my friend, and she's Catholic as much as I am. I think Haley is.
I'm in the chat with all of you. I mean, Haley's been very kind to me, and everybody else has been very kind to me, and I appreciate that.
I just think we're all doing what we can to become saints, and we're dealing with these outside circumstances. And you're coming to a different conclusion on one thing. I'm coming to a different one.
Here's the thing. I had to follow logic into if I hadn't been paying strong attention to logic and where that goes and what happens when you follow logic, I would never have been Catholic
in the first place.
To begin with. I would never have wasted my time. And now it's been 9 years, almost 10 years, and I'm just trying to do the same thing. It's the same principles and the same attitude that I had, which led me into the church to begin with, to give up a life of not going to church and whatever else.
So look at it like this.
So I'm just trying to follow that same disposition in myself.
My final coming into the church and saying, this is the church, has to do with Humani Vitae. And seeing every other denomination collapse. Go ahead, there you go. So I saw every other. This is so weird for me, guys. I hate being the only one on screen. This is really strange. So for me, I come in, and when I see Humani Vitae and every other denomination collapses and they all give in, every other religion and everything, everybody gives in and they collapse and they say, okay, artificial birth control is okay. And then Humani Vitae comes. And I mean, I wasn't alive for that, but when I was studying to come into the church, seeing that the church held her ground and that she didn't give in to the pressures of the culture was such a huge part of my conversion. It was like, oh, wow, this has divine protection. God won't let her cave into the pressures of the culture and let her just say, okay, guys, we can use artificial birth control. So I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people had that experience, so that now when you see Francis bringing in people into the John Paul II Academy for Life that are actually trying to push that boundary and say, hey, there are instances where we can use artificial birth control. I think that a lot of people are feeling like me and saying, this is a really insane thing, because if this happens, everything I thought about the church comes into question now. It becomes this thing where you're just saying, okay, wait, my whole basis on this was it was receiving divine protection from the Holy Spirit. So now if the church caves on that, is the church, does it have what you bind on earth is bound in heaven? Because if the church actually says binding on earth that you can use artificial birth control, is that bound in heaven? I don't see how that's possible, because I always thought papal infallibility was a negative charism. It was not that the Pope can promulgate whatever he wants. It was that he was prevented from promulgating error. And this is a very big issue for me. And that's why I think a lot of Catholics are having such a hard time with what's going on right now. Yeah. So Joe Diodati says, if that happens, then we have no choice but to be sedes and schismatic, because every one of us know that part of faith and morals that the Pope is supposed to be infallible on. So now if he goes and says you can use artificial birth control, everything we thought is out the window at that point. It's like, is this even the church anymore? So then we become what? Sedes, and then what? What are we waiting for? Now the thing is, the Essene community in the first century said, okay, well, the Ark of the Covenant is not in the temple, so the temple sacrifices are not valid. So are we in a situation like that? I don't believe so, because I think that we have Eucharistic miracles in the Novus Ordo. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but Eucharistic miracles are only necessary when there's lack of faith. Fine. But you don't see Eucharistic miracles in the Anglican Church. You don't see Eucharistic miracles in the Episcopalian Church. You only see them. Margot's saying I'm doing amazing solo because I'm so nervous being on alone.
I'm back.
You don't see Eucharistic miracles in any place but the Catholic Church, and even in the Novus Ordo. So my point is that the sacraments have to be valid. Right? You still see these things in the Novus Ordo. Now, Joe makes that face.
They don't have to be valid. And
part of what came...
All right. So
how can there be a Eucharistic miracle if it's not valid?
If I was to guess, I would imagine they're valid.
Thank you, Margot. I was very nervous.
I don't know if Christine is in the chat. But before we go any further, I'd like, if somebody were to want to read or understand the Sedevacantists thesis, my good friends are at on Twitter, and they have their own blog, and it's called WM Review.
I know them.
And they're actually really, really respectable.
They're respectful to everybody. They were respectful to me when I disagree with their position.
They're very kind, and they're good friends of mine, and they're very smart, and they're very educated, and they're not of the position that all of those who go to society chapels are.
Real quick, but yeah. So Nick, that's my point, right?
So I just wanted to recommend their stuff to get a better understanding of the position, because I do think Sedevacantists and traditionalists in general, not just Sedevacantists, are probably the worst spokesman for their position, because they're often pretty unpalatable.
Yeah, the worst part about being Sedevacantist is that you have to be a Sedevacantist. It's like you have to be associated with the people that are Sedevacantists.
So I've defended Sedevacantism publicly on Twitter, and not even as one, but I'm just like, these guys are Catholic. But I had Matthew Theo, who's like a Twitter Sedevacantist, be like, yeah, but bro, you go to a mass where
Francis is said in the canon.
See, Christine gets it here, because WM Review they're really great. They're out of England. They're really cool guys.
Okay, so wait, real quick, stop, because here's my point. I tell Joe all the time, be careful what you say publicly, because you actually can. So Christine was led by WM Review. So my point is, even if you hold this position, there needs to be some humility there, because if you're not correct, Right. And you've even said to me, like, there's no way to know if you're actually correct on it, right? There's no way for you to know. So now if you're incorrect, you're actually pulling people out of the chart. Like, that is such a grave
I don't believe that.
matter. I do.
I don't believe
like,
that.
I think that is such a grave thing that even if I came to that conclusion, I would never say it publicly.
Because, I mean, because the sword cuts both ways. If sedevacantists are Catholic, even if they're incorrect, then if they pull people towards sedevacantism, then they're still Catholic, which I believe. I think even if sedevacantism isn't the correct position, I still think they're Catholic.
I still
think they fall under the umbrella of Roman Catholicism.
If they're going into it and saying, "God, please have mercy on me if I'm wrong." This is such a difficult question. Please have mercy.
Which is why you can't be flippant about it. So within sedevacantism, and I've gone down some of these roads, is the unicum debate, and Christine might know what I'm talking about. Whether or not you could attend a mass where Francis's name is said in the canon. Some of them say no. Some of them say it's fine.
What do they say in place of it?
Nothing, I suppose.
So they don't say a bishop or.
But a lot of sedevacantists are just fine with it, and those are more of the sedevacantists that I side with. Joe is corny, so whoever the postmillennial integralist thinks I'm corny. Meanwhile, I would probably like stomp him in.
Wait, not even that. Forget that. Wait, no. I want to say something. Joe. All right, look. Here's what the problem is when you say things like that. Joe is speaking from his heart on anything he's saying, right? We're trying to have.
He probably just can't think.
No. It's not even that. It's that this is what I'm trying to get around. Like, you can have a different position from somebody that if they believe the faith, you have to really say, look, even though I don't believe what you believe, you have to have compassion for people that have a different position than you because things are so insane right now. I love this guy. Like a brother. Like, no joke. If Joe asked me, Joe calls me and goes, "Yo, is it weird if I need to like dry my clothes in your dryer?" I'm like, "Joe, stop it. Come and throw stuff in my dryer." He's drinking tonight. He's sleeping at my home tonight. He's my brother. I'll fight someone for him. Like, I don't care that we have a different position, and I don't think he's crazy for thinking anything he's thinking. He's looking at it. Joe thinks differently than I do. He just thinks differently than I do. And Joe is somebody who looks at it like the principle is the biggest issue at hand. Where I look at it like, okay, well, relationships are a big deal. So I don't, I want to make sure that I keep relationships intact. This is a temperament issue. This is not anything else. Joe, if anybody doubts Joe's sincerity, he's not making things up. He's not easily swayed. He has thought more about this than any of us. And this is the conclusion he came to. And you have to have a little bit of humility and say, Joe, I mean, look, the times are insane. I understand why you're here.
I'm just here's, and I think it's because like I'm giving the big no, which is harder than being like, well, everything's just fine. The saying no is harder than saying yes. And I suppose that people think that that's harder. And I don't particularly care for doing it. Like, look, I've been going to a society mass and I've been like a quote unquote recognize and resist guy for about a decade. And I'm just coming to some of these arguments and just trying to figure it out. And I'm just trying to be honest. And I think that's like, I think that's what a lot of people are missing. I gotta tell Rob, not gonna lie, I bought Postmillennial for calling me a jerk, and no, he didn't call me a jerk. He called me he said I didn't pass the vibe check. Which
listen.
If you're gonna attack personally, like if you're gonna bring an argument to me, and then I'll address it. But if you're gonna just say I don't pass the vibe check, then I don't have time for you.
Joe called me, and the thing about Joe, you have to understand is, for him to not say the things he's saying would be him lying, and like that's an important thing, guys. You have to understand that if Joe went along and pretended he thought Francis was the Pope, he would be disobeying his conscience and lying. He would be insincere, and Joe is not capable of being insincere. That's what you have to understand. So for me, I know him and I drastically disagree. Like, I really do believe Francis is the Pope. I just think he's an unfaithful Pope. And I think that you have to look at it typologically. Joe came to a different conclusion, but Joe didn't come to a different conclusion flippantly. He's one of the most sincere people I've ever met. He's a deep thinker, and he is about principle above all. So the whole idea of what we're doing right now is to show you guys that, like, look, you have two friends here that completely disagree. But like the whole idea of just if somebody disagrees with me, you got to just trash them. Oh, this guy doesn't agree with me 100% on this. You got to trash them. You guys cannot have that attitude. Like we all believe the Orthodox faith. And I think that even someone like Haley, who believes the Orthodox faith, goes to the Novus Ordo and is just trying to be faithful to her bishop, because that's a valid position, guys. There's a lot of valid positions right now that I think that we all just have to be a little bit merciful and say, this guy, you can't just flip to this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, so I mean,
how can you say
so
that?
I know Haley asked questions whether or not I think she's Catholic. I don't think she belongs to I don't regard her as a Lutheran or something like that. I don't think she's part of a separate religion. I just think that it's things that we have some severe disagreements, and like, I don't have time for somebody saying, if you're going to argue against sedevacantism by saying that somebody like me doesn't pass a vibe check, that just doesn't do it for me. If you could unblock him, but that's it just seems irrelevant to me. Like
Joe's my friend, right? And him and I talk on the phone a lot.
So here's the thing, like I'm from. For the past, I've been on Twitter for like about a year and a half, and I've been doing this stuff for about a year and a half. And I've mostly taken a pretty tough position, I think. And a lot of the times, more often than not, but look, I basically end up in a position where either you really enjoy what I'm saying or it really upsets you.
Is Joe Catholic and Supich? Is Joe's not Catholic and Supich is? That's a question. You're going to tell me Supich is Catholic and Joe's not? Like, don't you dare tell me that.
It's been my experience that people get upset with me. Trads too. I mean, I've had a lot of trads get upset with me too. And they get really upset with me, and they default to just calling me. They default to calling me names, but rare is the day that they want to present an argument to me on this stuff. And I've seen that somewhat tonight. Most of you have been pretty kind, though. I'll give you that. But that's meaningless to me, and I'm just going to keep going, and I'm just going to keep following.
I just think Joe is being. I think look.
And Hallie, I would certainly not be against talking to you. Of course not. So
I hope that everybody, if you guys take anything from tonight, I wanted you guys to know that Joe's sincere in where he's coming from, right? Like there's no. I don't think anybody comes to the conclusions they
Please
come
pray
to.
for me more than him, though, if you could, because I could always use plenty.
Yeah, no, listen, I just think that we're in such a confusing time. And I think that it's a real look. If we had this conversation 12 years ago when Benedict was Pope, if Joe was saying these things, I'd be like, you're out. I would have, because I still am a hermeneutic of continuity.
Catherine is in the chat. That's nice.
I
mean, Anthony's hosting me in his house, and I'm just sitting here drinking. Here's
what I'll tell you guys. Joe,
Rob is here to set.
What's up, guys?
Oh, yo, Rob, my brother.
Rob's here to keep us all in check. All right.
Wait, we need headphones, Joe. Wait, Rob, we need headphones. Hang on. Wait, Rob. Wait. We got no headphones. Hang on. Rob was watching this show, everybody, and he goes, "This is such a great conversation. Hope went to sleep. I'm coming to hang out."
Yeah, let me take a earpiece so I can hear him.
What's funny, at like 7:40, I go onto the YouTube channel, do some other things, and I'm like, wait, they're streaming. They started early?
No, but wait a minute. You are a jerk because we were only starting at 9 because we thought you were joining. I told you, Rob, we're going to start at 8, but if you're going to join, we'll start at 9. And you set the premiere for 9 o'clock, you jerk. Yeah, and you weren't going to join. So wait, where's Hope right now?
In bed.
So I'll always get in line when Rob starts to talk because I respect Rob quite a bit. I've had a beer with Rob at the bar, and I think he's a great guy.
Is it really having a beer with me when you're sitting there looking at your beer forlornly going, I just want to know who the Pope is?
It's having a beer near you.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Based on coordinates.
I think I spilled that beer of yours, didn't I?
You might have.
The thing is, Rob is, for anyone that doesn't know, when Rob says something, we all take it to heart, right? Rob doesn't speak like like harshly ever. So when he does, you're like, whoa, I better listen to what Rob's saying right now. So, Rob, what have you picked up from this conversation so far? What's up, Nikki? You got tomorrow's, the Mondays.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's nothing that we haven't talked about separately, obviously.
Separately, not on air. We've never done
right,
this.
Not on air. No. I mean, I think what it comes down to it is you got to give, people the benefit of the doubt. You got to give them charity. You have to, whatever side they're on. And, I'm kind of somewhat in the middle, right? Because I tried to live a traditional Catholic life, but I have to go to the Novus Ordo most of the time. So I see both sides quite a bit. And I think you just have, like Joe was saying, if someone says they're Catholic,
you have to take them at their word.
Then you kind of have to take them at their word unless you can prove otherwise, unless you're willing to.
So, like, if you have a James Martin type or something like that,
well, there's a sense that if they say the creed, they're Catholic. Until proven otherwise in a lot of ways, that if they say the creed, which Hallie says the creed, and Hallie obviously believes more
can I
Catholic dog.
Can I address this real quick? So Margot says, can we go back to Anthony being a hermeneutic of continuity?
Can we go back to Anthony saying 2 + 2 = 5?
No, here's what I mean by that. Okay. If it's not a hermeneutic of continuity, then it is a hermeneutic of rupture. And if it's a hermeneutic of rupture, it scares me that means what the implications of that are. So if we ever got like a Bishop Schneider as Pope, he would actually be able to taste that. If you like that, you got to try that. What do you think? It's good, right? Yeah. Go put ice, dump that out, put ice in your glass. You're having that. So my point is that if you had like a Bishop Schneider, go to the bathroom and then grab a glass. If you have a Bishop Schneider, you could actually implement the hermeneutic of continuity the correct way. And I don't think anybody else probably would. But the implications of hermeneutic of rupture scare me, because does that mean that the church defaulted? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Does that mean that the church... does that mean that the gates of hell prevailed? Like, if the church could teach error at Vatican II, if we could have a church council that promulgates error, I don't know what the implications of that are.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the.
So I as a default, I say, okay, hermeneutic of continuity. And I think, look, this is a lot of people don't know this. TNT started to fall apart when Tim came on with Taylor and he said, hey, I don't know how else it works. And I saw Taylor get nervous. I don't know. They never spoke about this publicly, but if you go and watch the last few TNT episodes, this was the main thing at odds. It was like Tim was saying, dude, like, if we don't have hermeneutic of continuity, like, what are we looking at here? Like, that means the church wasn't the church. And we all believe that the church is infallible, and the church, like that means there has to be a way to interpret Vatican II in light of tradition, that there was no error and heresy in it.
At least the acts of the council itself, right? I mean,
the paperwork,
whatever
like the
was
actual
done,
documents,
whatever was done in its name afterwards, I feel it's something else entirely.
Oh, totally different. Yes, 100%. Look, there really was a spirit of Vatican II, and that spirit was starting to get toned down. And then when Benedict stepped down, it's like all the freaks came back out of the closet and were running right back into where they were at a time in the 60s and 70s. And this is why I said earlier, like, there's probably a lot of positions that Lofton has that I agree with. I just don't like what he's doing with the whole reaction video thing. I just think that it is ambulance chasing. I think that he's looking to get as many views as he can. And I think that you have to have integrity if you're going to do something like put your face out there, put your heart out there, and start speaking what you believe out on YouTube. I mean, Rob, how many private conversations have you and I had about, hey, these are the lines we're not going to cross. This is what we want to do with our channel. Like, we really want to do something different. We want to be unique. We never want to just be that carbon copy of every other guy doing what they're doing. And it's not easy to toe the road that you and I have. We easily could have had thousands and thousands of subscribers if we ran down the same road that everybody else is, because I think both you and I are both bright enough to do that.
Up until some of the more last couple of weeks, things have been going really well. But prior to that, our best episodes have been the episodes that are more similar to what other people put out. The stuff about current events, about politics, about news, which I like talking about that stuff. Especially with you. But you're right. If we did that stuff all the time, I think we would have hit 1,000 probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Way sooner. You and I, listen, our channel would be way bigger. And I just think that there's a level of, hey, we don't want to sacrifice our integrity for views, right? Like we just want to be us and be just be genuine.
And concentrating on that stuff makes me a worse person. So I don't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's get back to just the differences. Joe, put it in the other ear so we're not like.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Right?
Come on, guys.
Now you guys know why he's a set A. He's not smart. Holy kid, he's one of the smartest guys I know. So let's get back to controversy, because people love controversy.
Yeah,
the first time we've done a controversial show.
People were tuning in, which is cool, right? I mean, that we like that.
Yeah, this is. I think that this is one of the. Where's your glass with ice? Go get ice. Go dump that out and get ice.
Dump that out.
Come on, dump that out and get ice, because I want you to. I'm making Joe a cinnamon toast crunch. He likes it.
Hold on. Did anyone see what her question? I assume.
Okay, I guess you guys are all friends or something, and that's cool. I'll ask again in the comments after.
Anyone see what that question was?
Yeah, repeat that question. We will answer anything, guys. Sometimes we miss stuff in the comments.
The more we actually talk, the more we miss the comments. It's kind of
right.
a double-edged sword.
This isn't trivia, right? So we're not constantly.
Is it maybe this one?
Joe, I found a society chapel listed on the internet. I feel funny about just showing up at some hotel looking to see if they are there. Do they accept? Oh, absolutely. Scarlett, listen. So the first time I went to the society chapel, it's going to be a parish. They're honestly, I just make sure you're wearing a veil, because they are a little touchy about veils. But I would say this, if you don't have a schismatic attitude, and you genuinely just want to go experience a traditional mass, I think that you can absolutely go to a chapel. And I think that you should go, because if you want to experience the 62 mass, there's something so beautiful about it. One thing I like about you guys is you don't get into the drama, but now that you've shared opinions, I can respect them. Listen, this is not even getting into drama though. Like what we're doing is, I'm kind of just unveiling, like,
make me a drink, bro.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What I'm kind of doing is just unveiling, because I'm gonna take the. Because there's none of that. Cool. What I'm doing is just trying to be honest with you guys, because these are things that I like. I've had a general rule that I'm not going to speak bad about Catholics, other Catholics, and I'm not going to discuss the hierarchy. And all I did tonight was just kind of drop the veil a little bit and say, look, I'm just as confused as everybody else. I haven't really said anything.
So when it's time to drop the veil, you bring me on the show.
Well, yeah, because Joe, you're the perfect guy.
Because we can do hashtag I blame Joe.
Did you see the hashtags Rob put up?
So I saw something.
Dude, they're so funny. Rob's please don't get our channel dropped. Like all these things.
I know. I saw a lot of people making comments and stuff like that. I'm a bit of a firebrand on Twitter, and I really do get a kick out of it. Because look, I get good interaction. I get a lot of likes on my tweets, so y'all can just bite me for getting. I just wish you guys knew, like, Joe is a man. I'm just enjoying myself, to be honest with you. And if you disagree with me, I don't care. Like, it's fine. It's fine with me.
Why do you think Catholic YouTube is focusing so much on trads while completely ignoring the German bishops and real schism? Seems that Catholic YouTube has priority 100%.
Yeah, it's like there's a double standard or something.
It's so nuts. You see Lofton and you see all these guys going after the trads. And what was crazy that today that Jeremiah Bannister and Tim Flanders had a conversation, and Jeremiah actually said, he goes, hey, I have not been charitable to these brothers of mine that believe the same faith as me. And it's a strange thing because I'm more charitable to people coming from Eastern Orthodoxy than I am towards people coming from the SSPX. And it's like, yes, Jeremiah wants people to come into a fuller communion, right? And the thing is, but he was just brushing them off. And it's like, look, this is a pretty crazy time, guys. And I think Unite the Clans was really about uniting the SSPX and FSSP. So when Michael Mack came out with that statement, he was really saying, hey, let's get the society and the fraternity together. But what happened was you started getting a lot of people who just attend the Novus Ordo, but are way more Orthodox and don't have access to the traditional Mass. And it was like, let's really unite these clans. And then there was some stupid infighting that went on, and people started critiquing these little things, that there are little differences that, oh, you believe this, I can't stand with you, I can't stand. It's like, dude, we all believe the Orthodox faith. We have to stand arm in arm.
I think Sean is right here. I think what it comes down to is,
do we need the headphones for this?
I think so, yeah.
Can you just
wait, Rob? We're gonna see if we unplug this, if we can hear you.
You should be able to hear me.
Volume.
The question is going to be echo.
Rob, talk.
Yeah, I'm talking.
I'm probably hearing out of this.
Yeah, sorry, Rob. We need the headphones.
Okay, let me know when you guys are ready.
All right, go ahead. What was your comment?
I was just saying that I think Sean's right here. I think everything focuses more on division because that drives clicks, right? And I'm not saying anyone in particular or in general does any of it on purpose, but when you do this stuff, the metrics kind of does, no matter how hard you work against it, drive decision making, right? I mean, there's no point in putting up a video that gets 60, 70 views.
I mean, we do all the time.
I know, but we're doing this after our day job.
No,
it's not our day job.
What it really comes down to is what we're doing is we're hoping that eventually people see what we're trying to do. Right? So look, I'm not going to say who did it. Last night, somebody did something that left me in the green room crying. Somebody donated $3,000.
Even worse, it left him speechless.
And in tears. And I wept last night, like no joke. I'm not going to blow that person's spot up because I don't know if they'd be comfortable with it. Like they gave us such a morale boost that you guys cannot imagine. Rob and I have been doing this for almost a year now, and we've just been like, okay, like how do we handle this? Like we don't want to be grifters. Like we've just been trying to do this for the glory of God and just try to show people that like, hey, being Catholic is joyful. And last night somebody gave us such an amazing morale booster that you can't imagine. Like, and the thank you I sent to this person, you guys just don't understand how flattering.
That person's lucky Anthony didn't show up on a plane the next day. Give him
seriously, like the how humbled, like my heart, like it almost broke, like that somebody would do something that kind for us. And it was because that person sees what we're trying to do and they believe in what we're trying to do. And it was the most humbling thing that's happened to me in a very long time. But I only say that because look at the state of online Catholicism. It's rough. And I think part of this show, I hope that everybody sees, like, guys, don't just write off somebody that disagrees with you. I mean, even when I'm talking right now, Joe's looking at his phone.
I don't write off somebody who disagrees with you.
No, that's the point. Listen to me. Joe and I have spent 20 hours together having conversations. Like, we drove to Steubenville together. We drove home together.
Joe spent 20 hours listening to Anthony.
No, Joe, listen to me. The way there,
I know.
I asked Joe more questions than you can imagine. I learned more about Joe than I don't think anybody's ever asked Joe the amount of questions I did. Because as much as I talk, I like to learn about people. And Joe told me about his family and about his conversion, about his brother's experience, and the things that I'm very curious, right? Like I like to know a lot of, like, if we have a guest on, I try to ask as many questions as I can. Joe floored me with his intellectual integrity and just why he comes to the decisions he does. And that's why I think that everybody needs to look at other people's decisions and their conclusions and say, hey, I know I don't agree with you, but you're still a Catholic. You believe the faith. And I think I need to slow my roll a little bit. Good talk, Rob.
Should we eat?
We ordered food, but listen, I hope that everybody enjoyed this conversation. Rob, I'm glad you jumped on at the end.
I just wanted to say hi.
Listen, after we're going to get off now because I think we did cover pretty much everything. I'm going to ask everybody, please leave a comment, like, subscribe. This was a really fun show. I think it was really honest. I think that we covered a lot of topics. I think I said things I never thought I would say on air. I hope you guys enjoyed the show as much as I did. But it's just, he says, my little children, let us not love in word, nor in tongue, but in deed and in truth. 1 John 3:18 should be New Catholic Youth. Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys aren't getting off until you arm wrestle.
I'm gonna say it right on air. Joe takes jujitsu. If we had a real fight, I don't know what would happen. An arm wrestle, he has no shot. When I tell you no shot,
What do you think about that, Joe? You think that's true?
When I tell you no shot,
but I would, in any physical contest, I would beat Anthony and anybody in the chat. So.
If we had a real fight, I don't know, because he takes jujitsu, and a trained fighter is going to be. I mean, I've had a lot of scraps in my life. I've fought plenty of people. Joe does jujitsu, and he's a trained fighter. Arm wrestling, when I tell you I'll rip his arm out of his socket, I'm not kidding. Like, he has zero shot. You want to arm wrestle? I'll rip your arm out.
No, this isn't
Do it.
There's not even a chance. When I tell you my arm is bigger than his calf. Don't worry about it. I beat him. But he might beat the crap out of me on my lawn out front right afterwards. So I'm going to...
Which is what matters.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, that's really all that matters. Guys, I had so much fun with everybody tonight. Thank you for all...
I mean, not even despite, because of all the very good and pointed questions, I really did enjoy myself.
I thought this was one of the most fun shows I've done in a long time.
I thought that for the most part, people, actually 99% of everybody was really fair. And
I think there was
really
one or two comments that were a little hard, but I really do think that everyone, like, guys, be a little more charitable to one another. Like, honestly, you don't look, if you see a comment from somebody, especially if it's somebody you like, you don't need to respond to it. Scroll past it. Like, just let it go. I
mean, I commented, I love everybody in the chat. Like, I really do. Like, I mean, everybody's cool to me. You know, I don't dislike
Joe says Joe Bug is a terrorist. We're all stochastic terrorists.
Sunday is literally one day out of the week. You know what I mean? And like, if you go to the Novus Ordo for 1 hour out of the week, I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not as concerned with your life.
I'm more concerned with if you believe
you're
the
not
Orthodox
concerned
faith.
with my life, and that's fine. And like, I'm fine with being friends with you. And like, if you ever want to, like, you know, my DMs are usually open. Like, if you ever want to chat, like, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of you are in the Telegram. I'm in Anthony's Telegram chat. So like, if you have questions, like.
And if any single eligible women want, email me and I'll give you his phone number.
But like Chesterton says, don't be so open. You know, I joke around. Chesterton said, don't be so open-minded that your brain falls out. That sometimes I am so open-minded that my brain does fall out. Like, I'm very much open to hearing anybody's perspective. So please, anytime. Please, any day.
Nick, that is such a flattering thing, man. I like the people that really do know us and like us are so supportive of us. Nick, you better be on trivia with us next week. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This was a long one, and I'm really interested to see what people's opinions of it were. So please leave comments after the video. I want to know what people thought of this. I thought it was a really fun conversation.
You can comment anything as long as it's charitable. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I'm on Twitter. Like, look, if you don't want to be charitable, I'm on Twitter. So, like, just so you know, just
me and Joe's sleeping over tonight. We're gonna go have Chinese food right now. Then we're gonna light the fireplace. We're gonna have a fun night. My wife's away. Me and Joe, like, he's my brother. Him and I are hanging out tomorrow morning. We're gonna have breakfast together. Like, I hope you guys understand that like real friendships are the most important thing in the world. Rob and I met online. Rob is my best friend in the world. There is nobody that means more to me than Rob right now. Like him and I, he is
Except his wife and
legit.
kids, everyone.
Yeah, of course. But come on, I can't stand them. I mean, what? Did I just say that out loud? No. I love my wife and children.
We'll edit it out. Don't worry.
Rob is my best friend in the world. We met online. Don't think these online friendships or these online interactions are meaningless. And a lot of people say Twitter is not real life.
No, it totally is.
I met some of the best friends I have in my life online. Yeah. Guys, treat everyone with charity. You don't know who you're talking to. It's not just an avatar you're talking to. There's a real human being behind it. We're gonna cuddle up in front of the fire. Yeah.
Here's my opinion on that. Like people say, Twitter's a dumpster fire. Twitter's not real. Blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you're a loser. Like Twitter, no, you just had a bad experience on Twitter. I've made so many real life friends on Twitter.
Real life friends.
And met amazing people on Twitter, and there are a lot of cool people.
The three of us are having this conversation because of Twitter.
And if you're not making friends on Twitter, it's because you're doing it wrong. Bottom line. That's it.
And like, I left Twitter. I don't know if it's gonna be permanent, but that was more just because it was spiritually what was best for me. But I mean, like, I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have, driven to Steubenville. I didn't drove. I flew, I guess.
You flew.
Like
somebody put your plane ticket.
Like, low-key, it's not just because I've had 2 drinks already. Like, Rob's are really, like, I've met Anthony because he lives near me. But I've met Rob, and, like, Rob's an amazing guy. Rob's really a good guy.
Yo, of all the people I've met online,
amazing dude.
I wish you guys knew how genuine of a friendship Rob and I have.
You guys do this.
I know Rob is very uncomfortable when I talk about this, but the two of us are best friends. So, guys, thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for tuning in for 2 hours.
Would you ever do this?
What is it? I would love to see Off the Rails with Michael. I will talk to anyone. That's the thing. I would talk to Michael Lofton. I would talk to Mike Lewis. I have a plan for a show. Listen to me. I have a plan for a show with Mike Lewis called If I Were Pope. And we're going to compare a Mike Lewis papacy to an Anthony Abbado papacy. And we'll see how different our worlds are. Like, that's honestly, I will talk to anyone. I don't care if I'll talk to an atheist. I don't care. So, Rob, let's wrap this up. You got an outro for us, Rob? Because we didn't have an intro without you.
Oh, I forgot to make you guys an intro.
I don't even know how to work those buttons. It wouldn't have mattered if you made one.
Yeah, I got something. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's wrap it up, Rob. Thank you so much for popping in.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone.